Welcome to this episode all about lasting power of attorney and wills. My name's Liz, just in case you haven't seen the previous episodes, and I'm talking all about things to do with dementia, and this is part of it really, talking about how to get a power of attorney and the importance of having one. But I will just say before I start, I am not a solicitor, I am not legal, I'm not trained in any way like that. I'm just a normal person who has a mother with dementia. So my video today is just about our experiences and my opinions. My advice is that you get your own advice. You go to a solicitor who deals with this sort of thing and you ask advice about your particular situations. So I'm just going to go through a few things today, and first of all, what is a lasting power of attorney? Lasting power of attorney is two types. One is for finances and property, and the other one is for health and welfare. So basically a power of attorney is where you would nominate one or more people to deal with things on your behalf if anything happened to you. We managed to get the lasting power of attorney for finances and health for my mum, as well as updating her will, and we knew that she was starting to go downhill with some form of dementia. We weren't sure what, but we suspected highly that it was something that was progressively getting worse. So right at that point, before she got any worse, we managed to get the power of attorneys done and her will updated, and we managed to get this all done while she still did have capacity. I can't stress enough how important it is to get these things done before that person loses capacity, because once they do, it's such a nightmare to get anything done. People won't speak to you unless you've got the power of attorney, anything to do with banks or bills or sorting anything out. It really becomes a lot harder, and you have to make an application to the court and it can take ages. So you really do need to get this sorted as a matter of urgency if you do suspect your person is progressing towards some form of dementia. So like I say, we managed to get ours done. It wasn't a nice subject to broach with mum, but we managed to do it, particularly with the help of my friend who is a probate solicitor, and she specialises in all this sort of thing. She knew mum anyway, which was a big benefit. So she's such a lovely person. She managed to gently talk to mum, explain to mum what we needed to do. We were there as well. We all, it was all done really well, and mum was all for it, getting it all sorted so that we wouldn't have problems later on. My dad had passed away approximately a year earlier, so it did fit in quite well with saying, look, dad's not here anymore, you're on your own now, so it is important that we get these things updated. So that's how we broached it. I do realise that everybody's in a different situation, so I know how hard it will be possibly for you to talk to your loved one about this, but I really would urge you to make some moves forward and get some advice and try and get it done. Okay, so yeah, like I say, we got mum's will updated at the same time because hers hadn't been updated for 35 plus years, so it was really out of date. So just going back to the reasons for having a power of attorney, why get one? Well, I would advise anybody to get one. My husband and I have both got them, and we're 49, 50-ish. I'm 52 actually. I just say 50-ish because it sounds better. But yeah, so it could be that you've just got a temporary situation. You might end up in hospital for some reason and you're incapacitated. You can't maybe make those decisions for yourself. You might need to do something with your mortgage. You might need to do something with a bank or paying some bills or something. If they're in your name, don't assume that your husband or wife or partner or son will be able to deal with it on your behalf. It's not always the case. A lot of places will require a power of attorney to deal with things, and they won't even speak to you unless you've got it in some cases. So this is why I would urge anybody of any age, if you've got responsibilities such as property, investments or children or whatever, you need to get a lasting power of attorney for finances, and also make sure you've got a will. So yeah, it could be anybody, like I say, or it could be like with my mum's case, you know, she's losing capacity. We can see she's on a pathway to some form of dementia, but we haven't got a diagnosis yet. So we managed to get it done. Well, mental capacity means that you can make specific decisions at the time that they need to be made. So you can either make those decisions or you can communicate those decisions somehow, and you're able to still do that. And to have mental capacity, you must understand the decision that needs to be made, why you need to make that decision, and the likely outcome of that decision. And you can only make a lasting power of attorney and sign it if you have sufficient mental capacity at the time of instruction. So at the time you sign those documents, it needs to be seen that you have got mental capacity to understand what you are signing. Your solicitor will help you through all that. So what is the lasting power of attorney for finances, and how does that work? Well, it works for things like, you know, buying and selling property, paying and dealing with mortgages and dealing with the mortgage companies, managing bank accounts and building society accounts or any sort of investments, paying and discussing bills, phone, TV contracts, that sort of thing, collecting pension benefits, wages, I don't know, you know, that sort of thing. So as I said before, you will find that if you haven't got the lasting power of attorney, these places just won't talk to you because they don't know for a fact that you're that person's nominated person. First of all, get some advice, do some Googling, research what the power of attorney thing is all about, so you can make sure I know what I'm talking about. Chat to a specialist solicitor. Find a good solicitor who is sympathetic and understands your situation, and is potentially somebody who can chat to your loved one, to your relative, or whoever you might be encouraging to get a power of attorney, because they will need to sit with that person on their own without you being there for them to understand it, and then, you know, you can help as well. Then that person needs to agree on who they want to have as their lasting power of attorney. It's usual to have between 1 and 4, maybe 2 or 3. But any more than 4, it is feasible to have more than 4, but in practical terms, it's probably too many and it's not necessary. So in our case, we've got myself and my sister. My husband is also a power of attorney for my mum, so we've got 3 main power of attorneys, and then we have one backup one, which you can put down on the form, and the backup one is my eldest son. So, you know, he would only kick in really if anything happened to my sister, myself and my husband, and we weren't able to deal with all this, he would then kick in and deal with it. So, you know, he's sort of a backup, which is a great idea. Some paperwork needs completing. Again, your solicitor will help you with all that. It is possible to do this without a solicitor, but I would strongly advise that you do get one because they can help you through it, make sure it all gets done properly. And then the paperwork gets sent off, and after a little while it will come back and you'll get an original copy, and you'll also be able to have some certified copies, because each person you deal with under the power of attorney wants to see a copy of the document, and they won't just accept a photocopy of it or a photograph of it. They want to see, usually they want to see an actual certified copy of that document, so that they can see it's all legal and correct. Moving on to the lasting power of attorney for health and welfare. So with the finances one, the finance power of attorney can kick in even when that person still does have mental capacity. So they can decide, I want you to deal with that anyway. You know, I've still got mental capacity, but I don't want to have to deal with it, so I want you to do it. Whereas with the health and welfare one, it only kicks in when they definitely have lost mental capacity to make those decisions about their own health. So it is health and welfare. So it's things like discussing medical issues with doctors and nurses and any clinical staff. It's making decisions about medical care. So, you know, what's actually going to happen, appointments, things like that. Future care needs that might come into play, such as moving that person into a care home or a nursing home, or maybe getting carers into the person's home to help out. And then we move on to a more serious one, which is life-sustaining treatment. So, you know, if that person does need to have their life sustained, you would have to kick in and make that decision. And as I stress again, that, you know, it can only be used when that person definitely can no longer make decisions for themselves. Our situation with the finances, quite early on, Mum really started to struggle with finances and her money. She would get to the stage where she didn't really see the value of the money anymore. She was struggling to use a cash machine to get cash out. So therefore she was going into the bank every time, and then she was not understanding what the bank staff were telling her. So quite quickly we decided that it probably was a good idea to help her out and take over her bank account so that we could be paying bills and making sure bills were paid, and just making sure everything was running properly. So we would still let her go to the cash machine, but we would go with her and, you know, make sure she was doing it right. And then eventually she just didn't want to use the cash machine anymore at all. What we did is we wanted to still allow her to think she had independence and some level of control over her own finances. So she had a building society account. So we made sure that there was plenty of money in that building society account, and we topped it up now and again. So that she could go and get money out of the building society, which was a lot easier for her from a process point of view, because it was still the old-fashioned bank book, the building society book, where she would go in, hand the book over, she would say she wanted £20, £40, whatever, out. They would stamp the book or put the book through the machine. It would then stamp to say she'd had that money out, and it would show her what her balance was. So that she found that a lot easier to deal with, and she liked that. So she could go and get money whenever she wanted. Now and again, we would just keep a track on what she'd been taking out, because at one point we did notice that she'd taken quite a lot of money out, but we couldn't see what she'd spent that money on. And to this day, we still don't really know. You know, there was a couple of £100 went missing where we just didn't know where that money had gone. We suspect possibly she was going around giving it to buskers on the street, you know, possibly giving £50 or something to them. But, you know, hey ho, I bet they had a nice day that day. But yeah, we did just keep an eye on things, but we wanted to allow her to think she still had independence, which I think was really important for her condition. From a health point of view, it really helped, because the doctors at the beginning, when we were working towards diagnosis, we did have a lot of conversations with doctors and some of the specialist nurses. So they were happy to talk to us because we'd given them a copy of the power of attorney for health and welfare. So they knew we had that. So they were happy to converse with us. Also, eventually, when we started talking to social workers and the memory clinic, and ultimately, you know, talking to care homes. So that all helped when we were able to give them copies of the power of attorney. Okay, so that's really everything I want to say about power of attorney. It's a lot more complicated than I've described, but you know, like I say, you do need to get your own advice, and it's very, very easy to do, really, but you just need to understand it. Wills, again, I'll say the same thing again, really. Everybody who's got responsibilities for either children or property or finances or anything, you do need to have a will. It's one of those things that none of us wants to think about, especially at a young age. You know, you don't want to be thinking about the fact that you might need a will. Bit of a taboo subject, but at the same time, it's practical. What you don't want to do is be in a situation where your loved ones have to cope with a load of hassle after something's happened to you. So, you know, make sure you've got a will, make sure that it's clear and it's up to date, and it'll just make life easier for people if and when something does happen to you. And, you know, it's not just older people. So, you know, for instance, my husband and I have had a will since we bought our first house. It's one of those things that, you know, and particularly because we had children as well, so we wanted to make sure absolutely everything was sorted. Okay, so the last bit of advice I've got is get professional advice. Go and see a nice friendly solicitor. A lot of them are brilliant, really kind, caring people who will help you through it and help your loved one through it. And, you know, you can, at the same time as getting the lasting power of attorney, you can also get them to look at the wills as well. Okay, that's it for now. I hope I've dealt with that subject, because it's a bit of a boring subject, let's face it, but you know, it is one of those subjects that needs talking about. It needs dealing with, and then you can just, you know, think, right, we've sorted that now, we'll move on. My next episode is about working towards a diagnosis, so I will record that soon, and I'll see you then. It's 2020 and I'm based in the UK. The advice might be different in different countries, and it may well change as the years go by, so please double check. Please like, subscribe, comment and share my videos. It really helps, and I love seeing that people have watched it, and it just makes it worthwhile doing. Thanks.